As Putin puts Russia on nuclear high alert, we ask, how many sides are there to a story that may lead to World War III? And remember, explaining is not condoning. Let's have a look at these two articles, and then together, because we're all intelligent, awakening people, we will come to our own individual conclusions, which will vary. If we start the clock in February 2022, the main problem is Russia's attack on Ukraine. If we start the clock in 1997, however, the main problem is Washington pushing NATO, the Cold War era military alliance that includes the United States and most of Europe, to expand east, breaking an assurance the US made to Russia after the Cold War. So let's include that idea. Many foreign policy experts and peace advocates have called for ending the anachronistic alliance ever since the collapse of the Soviet Union in 1991. But NATO remains and has only encroached towards Russia further, resulting in new NATO countries bristling with NATO arms systems right on Russia's borders. So you can see how that's antagonistic and how you could start to understand that one potential narrative line of inquiry is, do certain countries, America, the United Kingdom, believe that they are the only nations that are able to decide when there should be military action or invasions? It's possible that that's true, isn't it? It's possible that the United States of America and the military-industrial complex and their allies in Britain and Europe believe that they are the only nations that are allowed to do invasions. Russia sees that expansion and its integration of neighbouring countries into US-led military partnerships as a continuing threat. Ukraine is not a member of NATO, but in the past the US and other NATO members have urged its acceptance, and Russia regards Ukraine's drift towards the West as a precursor to membership. And then a clear statement here, and these kind of clear statements are important, none of that makes Russia's invasion of Ukraine legal, legitimate or necessary. It's not condoning Putin's invasion to observe there was certainly provocation. Now, let's have a look from another news source at an argument that's much more critical of Putin and Russia's actions. Putin argued that Ukraine was not a proper country, implying that of the states born out of the collapse of the Soviet Union, only one was real and legitimate: Russia. All the rest were confections whose right to exist was hazy and to be determined by Putin himself by force of arms if necessary. Taking him by his word and by his deeds, Putin believes he has the right to redraw the map of Europe and to do so in blood. Putin had hardly kept his worldview secret until now. On the contrary, he'd acted on it at least 3 times in the past 15 years, each time paying little price. He seized a chunk of Georgia in 2008 and of Ukraine in 2014. We may have forgotten all about that. The Russian dissident Garry Kasparov laments the amnesia of the West, but Putin had not. He noted the Western shrug that greeted his annexation of Crimea, how just 4 years later Russia was cheerfully hosting the Football World Cup. There was no clear out of oligarch money from Londongrad. Putin understood the signal. It was a green light. The problem is an obvious one. Putin does not care if his people suffer. And you think that's unique to Putin? He's priced in the hit to his oligarch pals, just as he's priced in the loss of Russian military lives. For him, conquering Ukraine and removing the example of a democratic neighbour that might show Russians a different life is possible is worth it. But if confronting Putin economically is ineffective, confronting him militarily is barely plausible or palatable. The Russian dictator was at pains to remind the West that his is a powerful nuclear state. Analysts say that Putin does not see Russia's nuclear capability as theoretical. It is absorbed into his military strategy. The grimmer prospect is that Putin understands something about the 21st century few of us want to face, that this is an age of impunity, especially for those who have a vast and deadly arsenal, but no shame. And whether it's Putin or Biden or Saddam or Hitler or whichever leader you want to list, there have always been people at the top of these pinnacles of power that are detached from the realities that they generate and create. The truth is that Ukrainian people, Russian people, American people, Saudi people, Icelandic people, Senegalese people all have more in common with one another than they have in common with the people that govern them. What is required is a new system of global governance. My hope is that together we can start to cooperate with our individual awakening, our social and communal awakening in ways that are meaningful. But that's just what I think. And I know it's convoluted and it ain't an easy fix. Let's not lose our hope and optimism. Let's not believe that any one of us might be right. Let's remember that we might be wrong, If each of us remembers that, then we have a chance at least of a conversation. Please stay free.